Hey mate, listen, thanks a lot for clicking on the video and watching it today. If you could do me the smallest of favours before, during and after you're watching this, if you could head over to Twitter, you can see my handle and everything there. I'll have a tweet out with this video. If you could like it and retweet it, it would mean so much to me. It really goes a long way to helping me grow and everything as well, so it would be very much appreciated. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoy the video. So we are going to be talking about the QV, as we're going to call it, the Quinn value, okay? So a big discussion around players on the index is always around who's valuable, why they're valuable, all this type of thing. I did a video a while ago called long-term hold criteria, and it's something that every time I revisit it, I think there's nothing really missing out of this. It would be great if it could be turned into something tangible, and it was a kind of little seed of an idea I had ages ago, and then I just forgot about it and never done anything with it, and then it kind of came back to me a little bit today, and I've spent a bit of time on it, and I think I've pretty much hit the nail on the head with it. I would love the feedback, guys, in the comment section once you've watched the whole video, hopefully, because I will be talking about a lot of different things at different stages. Anything that you like, anything you're not sure about, anything at all, just drop the comments below. But I say I'm fairly confident in how it's all panned out. So let me show you how it's going to work. We have 11 categories here, okay? One of them is like a doubler, so it's like an alternative depending on a previous criteria. You'll see that when we come to it, but the maximum score is 100 basically, even though there's 11 sections. You can only complete 10 of them really, okay? And we'll just kind of walk through them all. I've got some notes at the bottom for what the total scores reflect, and then I've got some examples of some people on the index, just common top 200 players, okay? So the first one there, as you can see, is capable of earning dividends in the first 30 days, okay? And I've spoken about that in a video a few days ago. I'll link that in the comment section below in terms of how to use IPDs and the kind of worth they have to you. The second one there, they play in a PB league basically, okay, but we've staggered the points for it because not every PB league is equally as valuable. The reason Italian is I've decided to have that down in low points is I've seen a few numbers kicking about. Nothing recently, to be honest with you, but I think it was maybe towards the back end of last season, early summer. But the Italian league for PB last year, like best midfielder, best defender, etc., star man, was like the worst out of the five of them. So for that reason, that's why I've done that. The reason I've went for well, England and Spain are the two big ones. If you're playing in those leagues, they're the two best to be holding players for prestige and everything that goes along with that. Okay, Germany is just unopen, and if you're a good player, you'll show in Germany. So that's why that's coming at third. France, I think if like PSG were to sell Mbappe and Neymar, I think a lot of prestige goes out of that league very easily off the back of two players that could both very reasonably be gone out of that league within any time that you could potentially hold a player for, certainly from the next 3 years. If they two were to leave and no kind of like-minded, no Ronaldo or somebody like that went to France, I think the French league it does lower in prestige off the back of that. Even though there'll still be lots of exciting talent, and everything else. Don't get me wrong, but just in terms of media, if you think, oh well, people in France win media and stuff like that, besides Neymar and Mbappe, who does really? Nobody worth note to say, oh, they're a an MB magnet. I beg your pardon. Now this one here, if they don't play in the Premier League, are they likely to at least be linked to the Premier League, or are they likely to transfer over? Has there been links in the past? Is there something in the pipeline? If you think about like a Naby Keita, a Pulisic situation, or somebody like maybe a Werner who's been linked there for ages. If he was, is he likely? Well, he could go there. Has been linked there. That type of thing. If they're already in the Premier League, a potential top six level transfer, and we'll come to that as part of the notes we've got at the bottom. What that means, okay? Then the person gets 10 points there. If they don't meet criteria two, so that one there with the staggering system of the leagues, if they don't meet criteria two, most likely will they move to a PB league, and then if they do, will it be with or without European football? And that's just to kind of give you a gauge on the stature of the player. Like, so for example, let Brout Erling Haaland, whatever his name is, if he was to leave Salzburg, is he likely to go to like a team in the Champions League or something like that? Probably, with the name he's earned so far. Think about Odegaard. He moved to Real Madrid off the back of not doing really much to a fraction of this boy's done already. So that's the kind of example I have in mind when I've done 10 points. If they're going to be moved to somebody like a Dortmund or Atletico Madrid or Man United or Man City, Barca, are they moving to somebody probably with European football? De Jong, De Ligt, these guys when they're leaving Ajax, who are they likely to go to? Or is it Brighton or Sassuolo or Augsburg? There's a difference between moving into the PB League system and moving into the League system. Blah, think say that. If they do meet criteria too, are they at or could, should, would? Yeah, their next move be to a top six club. Okay, so if they are already in a PB League, if are they good enough to step up into the top level of football, basically? Okay, um, and if they're already there, of course, if they're already at one of those clubs, then they get the points as well. That's the key word here. Can they earn dividends out with the 30-day period? Okay, so is it reasonable to assume that they could win a single match day? There's only one trebles, or they could win a single match day. There's 2 or 3 matches on. Could they possibly win it in the easiest of scenarios? Yes, they could. Okay, 10 points. And then age. Okay, so again, we've kind of staggered it. If they're younger than 21, they get 10 points. If they're 25 to 21, basically, they get 8. And if they're 28 to 25, they get 6. Okay, and anything above that, we don't award points for age. Okay, it's just neutral. It's not going to be negative. Okay. Then the next one, do they play in the Champions League or Europa League? And we've staggered those points a little bit because even though Europa League you play easier opposition, so you're more likely to win PB and such, general value of your stock to be in the Champions League for the extra media that goes around that and the extra prestige of doing well in that tournament and then moving up or going on to be a great player in the world or whatever, it definitely merits more points. We're doing +2 points on this if they are also a European national. The reason for that is we've now got the Euro qualifiers eligible for dividends as well as the Euros next summer as well. So that asterisk, we might open that up as Football Index opens up. If it's a World Cup here, then it'll be a World Cup eligible player, that kind of thing. Okay. International eligibility for Football Index. Currently has a pre-established ceiling or a comparable example with a significantly higher value on the index. Okay, so a pre-established ceiling, guys, again, it's a kind of term I kind of throw about a lot in a lot of previous videos, right? But it's basically a point where they've been, like Messi's a good example, like Messi's been like £5.60 or something before, but currently it's £5.10. So could Messi return to £5.60? Yes, he could very easily. He's went backwards because he's got a bit of an injury, and he's not even played a game yet in the new matrix, and the market's growing, etc., etc. Is it reasonable to assume there's significant data out there to suggest a price movement? So their own pre-established ceiling be the first thing, or a comparable example. So a comparable example I would probably want to give you is, let's say, Kieran Tierney is £1.37, Andy Robertson is £1.78. Could Tierney be the same price as Robertson? Yes, he could, because they're virtually, in terms of the index, black and white on paper, basically the same person. The next one, you have tracked their price and you have identified a safe buying position price. 10 points. Okay, so again, we're allocating extra points for you actually knowing their movements, and it's not just a big spike and that type of thing, but when you know it's a great time to buy them for whatever reason, that is, that's trading. There's points for that. And then the last one there, as you can see, they're English. 10 points, okay? Now, if they get 30 points or less, the definition is simply be cautious, and then the rating, if you like, is gamble stroke genius, okay? So if they have that little points, it's probably for a reason, because indexes, we all have access to a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of information on football, and we can all research the hell out of everything. And so if you're buying somebody with 30 points or less, it is a gamble. Even if you've got a lot of money in them, they're probably going to be really cheap, I'd imagine. Let's say even they're 20 pence. If they move up 4 pence, it's 20%, so as a gamble, you could get that 4 pence quite quickly or over a year, or one random match or something, and it could be a stroke of genius. It could, maybe it's a wee guy, it's 18 that plays for Spal in Italy, and he becomes the next Moise Kean or something, so there's that. 30 to 50 points. Be prepared to weather periodic dips and potential stagnation. Likely to have a low cost with a longer term period to hold to achieve target profit. Likely to have multiple opportunities to sell and rebuy. And then the rating is speculative. Okay, so again, if they're scoring at that kind of level, there will be periods of growth and decline for everything. But overall, what you find with players that tick much less these boxes, and you can combination up any of these terms if you want to find the sort of players you're talking about. they will go through a lot of periods where they're not easy to sell quickly, and we've all had players like that. You can't shift them, and that's why I'm talking about stagnation. There's not going to be movement on them all the time. They'll probably go quiet for long periods of time if they're not anywhere near the limelight, transfer windows closed, whatever. 50 to 70 points, form, fitness and dividends, or at least a displayed potential for dividends, will stimulate growth, likely to have a higher commission threshold, so entry and exit point are key to the profit margin you make. Likely to be volatile to real world events versus competitors in the marketplace. Rating is safe. Okay, so what we're thinking about with that is, like, if you think about all the speculation with like Neymar, if I'm going to Barca, people think, oh well, his circumstances are changing. He's not going to be bossing this little French league anymore at PSG. He's going to be against Messi on every match day now, etc., etc. And since you've seen money leaving Neymar, we've definitely seen a lot of money come in for Mbappe, and then a bit more of a trickle effect down the slope, if you like. But that kind of thing, when Messi gets injured, it goes down from £5.40 to £5. That money goes to somebody else in that price range. Most of the time they feel some effect of it, if not all of it. But then you'll maybe feel a bit of a trickle down. That kind of thing. So real world events versus competitors, players that offer similar gains and risk and return type of thing, that don't have an injury or aren't suspended or haven't fallen out with the manager or whatever. But otherwise, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Good form, good fitness, good dividends. They'll grow. You know what I mean? They'll do well, and there's no two ways about that. Especially if they're ticking all those boxes. That's a given. And then 75 to 100 points. No urgency to liquidate. Should be a priority purchase / hold. Topping up when the market shifts away from them would be advised, as long as it wasn't in line with e.g. an injury. Very safe. So let's say, for example, that movement we just spoke about with Messi. Imagine he wasn't injured and he just went backwards. Sometimes that happens, that kind of higher end of the market sometimes will just move back 20 pence. There's no real reason to it. Somebody's sold up and moved on. If you see opportunity like that in these types of players that are scoring 75 to 100 points, and there's not many players that will get in that category, guys, to be honest with you, then it's always a good time to be picking them up. And then at the bottom there you see the definition: top 6 clubs: Real Madrid, Barcelona, Man United, Man City, Liverpool and Chelsea. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of grief for that. Arsenal, Spurs, Bayern, Juve, PSG. I know you could make a case, AC Milan, Inter Milan maybe. You could make a case for having them in the kind of top tier, but I think number one, the top tier should be exclusive, and number two, that is really reflected in the index. If somebody moves to Chelsea, somebody moves to Real Madrid, and look at Kubo, look at if you're playing and linked to these clubs are the most watched and scrutinised ones, I think, in the world, and especially on Planet Index, Football Index. All the media is English press and tabloids, and that's who the clubs they focus on. Spurs and Arsenal, yeah, they're in the papers a bit, don't get me wrong, but in FI world, Ozil's pretty good for media, by the way, but he's like a pound, because he's not, Spurs and Arsenal players just aren't as sexy on the index overall, as far as I can see it. Aubameyang, for the amount of goals he scored last year, his price is ridiculous. And then when you look at Kane, it's England captain stuff, that's really what pushes him up, as well as being the main man in a big team in the Champions League and all the boxes he ticks. But, look at Son. How amazing is Son in real life, and the points he scores and everything. And it's like he's like 170 or something, 180. So that's something. They just, is Pulisic better than Son? You know what I mean? No, he's not. But you wouldn't think that looking at Planet Index. So I'm quite happy to stick to that top 6, to be quite honest with you. Okay. Now I've prepared some examples, and here they are. So I got 4 from each category: forward, midfielder and defender. And yeah, you can see all the scores there for yourself. There's not much of a reason why I picked some of them, to be honest with you. I was just scrolling through and I thought, yeah, he'll be a good one to use, he'll be a good one, he'll be a good. I used Denier because he won dividends tonight, and I thought that was quite interesting. But yeah, think of it what you will, guys. I'm putting it out there. I'm right open for feedback. I think it's pretty damn accurate. Sancho's been touted about on Twitter recently as he's the future king of the index. Same with Mbappe. And when you look at the former kings of just the world of football, and then the want-to-be kings, I feel like, I didn't mean that, by the way. That's just worked out quite nicely. But I think that tells everything. I mean, you look at midfield, Havertz, we all know why he's £4 and pushing higher. Greenwood, it does explain why he's worth what he's worth, because he does score well when you look at the criteria as I've laid it out. Pogba, he's in the top category. Bernardo Silva's flirting around there. Now, any of the ones that have a dash in them, that is to do with tracked them. You know, see the 0.9, I think it was. You've tracked them and located a safe point of entry. That's if you do, or if you don't, you know, have that point to buy them at. So even Pogba, for example, if you did just buy him willy-nilly, he's still 76. You know, he's still in that top category. You know, so even if you didn't put any thought into it, you can't, you know, to an extent, you know, in these players, you can't really go too far wrong, no matter when you buy them, really, because they tick so much. And then the players that are a little bit lower, for example, like they're all quite top, but even Ronaldo and Messi, they're kind of exceptions. I was interested to do both of them just to see how they compared against each other, and I found it quite interesting that Messi does come out on top, but it's just because Ronaldo is in Italy, really, and it balances out a little bit because Ronaldo's European and Messi isn't, which I found quite interesting. Just the way all those points kind of worked out quite nicely. I see, I'm quite happy with it, guys. If you're new around here and you've liked this, we're calling it the Quinn value, the QV, okay? So whenever you're discussing players with me going forward, that's the way I'll be talking about it. To see if it works, and if it gets annoying or I'm fed up with it or I think it's stupid or whatever, then I'll stop doing it, and you probably will have done it long before then. But the QV, what is the QV on him? That's what I want to know. Before I look into stats for any player, what's the QV? Thanks a lot, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.